Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and in today's video I would really like to talk about my ectopic pregnancy story. I know that I've shared a number of really in-depth vlogs about this experience because this ectopic pregnancy happened after my first round of fertility treatment, so I knew there was a chance I could get pregnant. I was recording, I was really excited, and I wanted to share that experience. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And I also know that when I first found out I was pregnant, but things were a little wonky, I was Googling everything under the sun. I was looking up everybody's experience on chemical pregnancies because we thought maybe that's what I was having. I was looking up low HCG levels but successful pregnancy. I was looking up other people's pregnancy tests and comparing them to my own to see if maybe I was progressing well. And when we found out that it was indeed ectopic, I was searching for other people's ectopic stories. And the story that I'm going to share is maybe on the rougher side of them because it results in me rupturing and having emergency surgery to remove my right fallopian tube. But I know that personally, with any surgery I faced, I recover much better when I'm mentally prepared for all of the possibilities. I know that what I'm going to share might sound scary to you if you are in this position, if you just found you're having an ectopic. It's not to scare you, it's to prepare you of what may happen, and also to show you that here I am 6 weeks later, I'm doing well, I'm recovering well, and I'm thankful for the way things worked out, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But before we dive into this story, I really want to thank today's sponsor. Today's sponsor has actually sponsored on my channel before, and I really love their products for after surgery when you get home and you're ready to recover. Well, I wish I had this about 2 months ago when I got home from my surgery and was in a bit more pain than I really expected. And you might be wondering, what are you talking about? I'm talking about what I'm sitting on. This lovely chair here is FlexiSpot's Power Lift Recliner XL6, and when I got home from my surgery, I was trying to sit in my old regular recliner and I couldn't get comfortable. It's one where you have to thrust your back backwards in order to get the footrest up, and they have to go together. I was so uncomfortable, and trying to get out of it was even worse. I did not realize how much strain that trying to get out of that chair would put on my C-section like incision. It really kind of hurt it, and Zach had to help me up a number of times. That's why I say I wish I had this right after surgery, because the dual motor recliner allows me to move the backrest and the footrest independently of each other with no physical exertion on my part. You know, I'm not kicking up the feet to try to move the back. You can get comfortable in this chair no matter what's going on with you, and that's why I love it so much. And it has a weight capacity of up to 400 pounds. It even allows you to lay completely flat if that's what you're feeling that day. This is nice. And when you're ready to get up, it has the power lift function, so there's no straining on your part. Not only that, but it has 3 massage modes, 3 heat modes, an adjustable headrest, and a USB port. Yes, Zach and I are fighting over this chair currently. He knows though, he knows that if I ever have to go in for surgery again, it's 100% mine. I need it. Getting comfortable can be really difficult, just in general, but especially after having surgery. So if you are looking for a place to rest, recline, and maybe heal, I highly recommend FlexiSpot's Power Lift Recliner XL6. It's just extremely comfortable. It was easy to assemble, easy to use. I love the heat mode. I think that's probably my favorite. And my only dilemma now is how I'm going to steal it back from Zach. If you're interested, check out the link in my description below, and thank you so much to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video again. Before we dive in, there are 2 things that I'd really like to mention. The first is that every single person and their pregnancy are totally different. If I had heard that 8 weeks ago, I would have ignored it because, well, I was Googling everybody else's experience and, you know, looking at their HCG levels and wondering if mine reached their level, would I would I be okay? Or if my pregnancy tests look like theirs, would I be okay? And I'm here to tell you, please, if you can, if you have the ability to ignore all of that, please do. Everybody works out differently. There are people that don't get positive tests until later, and they are perfectly fine. There are people that have positive tests super early on, and they wind up having ectopics. It works out differently for everybody. Yes, there are certain patterns that ectopics may follow, but it can really work out totally different between two people in very similar circumstances. The second is that my story is a little bit unique in that I have some health conditions that change things a little bit. So I have Crohn's disease, and because of this, I've had a number of surgeries throughout my lifetime. I had my colon and rectum removed. I have a permanent ileostomy bag. That's how I go to the bathroom. I've had issues with scar tissue and inflammation with my kidney and my ureter, so I've had surgery on that. I've had a number of things going on, so I knew that this would potentially impact my ability to get pregnant, and if I did get pregnant, how that would go. There are many people that have had my exact circumstances, and they have had healthy pregnancies, and they've even delivered vaginally. So, it really is a dream of mine to carry a pregnancy. I do get comments every now and then, why don't you just adopt? Why don't you do IVF? Why don't you do this, that, and the other? Unless you're footing the bill. Yeah. Anyways, I want to say that I do have a unique health perspective on this, but this unique anatomy of mine, I think, really impacted how I experienced the ectopic, and especially the rupture of the ectopic. And I want you to keep that in mind in case you've had anything going on that the symptoms that I was told to look out for were not the symptoms that I had when I actually ruptured, and I wish I knew that it didn't necessarily play out the same way every time, and maybe I would have caught on a little bit quicker that something was wrong. So I just want to preface this video with those two things. Now let's get into the timeline. So it started with the fertility clinic. My husband and I have been trying for 3.5 years to no avail, and so we went through the fertility clinic testing. We did an HSG, we did a saline sonogram, genetic testing. My husband got tested, sperm motility counts, all that stuff. Everything was great. Everything was normal. Everything was great. I had never heard normal in my life, so I was thrilled about it. We decided on moving forward with a medicated IUI. That's when you take some sort of fertility drug. I took Clomid, and it helps me create follicles. I then took a shot of Ovidrel, which helped me actually ovulate. And with the IUI, intrauterine insemination, my husband gave his specimen to the doctor. They cleaned it all up, got the healthy sperm isolated, and basically injected me with it. So they put a catheter through my cervix, got it as close to my fallopian tubes as possible in the uterus, and injected the healthy sperm. And then afterwards, I took progesterone. So I was given about a 14% chance that this would work each time that we tried it. To my shock, I was pregnant the first round, and I truly didn't believe it. I actually thought that I wasn't pregnant. I thought that I would experience things a lot sooner with it, which was the first inkling that maybe something was not quite right. I did not get my first positive pregnancy test until 14 days past ovulation. So if I say DPO, I mean days past ovulation. I didn't get that first positive until 14 DPO, the day before my blood test for my HCG. And so it was so faint, and I didn't really believe it, but at the same time, I was just starting to have symptoms. My chest was starting to hurt, and that was really the only thing I was feeling then. I was a little bit moody too. It was kind of a little moody. But I went to the blood test and found out that my HCG was only 20, and they said at this point in your cycle, we would really like to see it at 150, so we believe you're having a chemical pregnancy. I was devastated, but I know a number of people in my life who've had chemical pregnancies. They happen pretty quick. Most people don't even know that they happen, and you move on and you get your period, and it's awful, but I was like, this will be quick, okay, then we can move forward. That is not what happened though. I was brought in the next Monday to check my HCG. It rose up to 57, which still wasn't great, but it was very close to doubling every 48 hours at that point, which is what they like to see. So I thought, well, maybe things are progressing and I'm just a little bit delayed, and that's all. So I was brought in every other day basically for a few weeks. I was getting my blood tested to see if my HCG was rising, and it was. It was doubling at this point appropriately, sometimes even more than doubling, and I didn't know whether to be excited or not, because I was warned that because I started low, like don't get too excited about this. Something's probably off with it. But to see the levels going up and me start to feel symptoms, I started to feel sick to my stomach, and mainly at night I was getting pretty nauseated and I was exhausted and my chest continued to hurt worse and worse. I was getting excited. It's hard not to. And we waited for the point at which my HCG level was high enough that maybe they would be able to see something on a transvaginal ultrasound. That took about a week and a half, or maybe it was like 2 weeks actually, for them to be able to do that. So during this whole time, we're seeing the HCG rise. They bring me in to finally get my first transvaginal ultrasound. And during that one, they didn't see anything. The only thing they saw was a suspicious spot in my uterus, which they said maybe is the start of something, and it's too small to see. I think my HCG at this point was around 1400. I think it was in that range. So I was really hopeful that spot was good. So I had to get through the next 2 days. Had to wait till Wednesday to get my next ultrasound. Went in, my HCG level did double, but this time they did find the embryo, and unfortunately they found that it was not in my uterus. I don't know what that suspicious spot was, other than just like a kick you in the face. I don't know. I wish they didn't see it the first time, but it was not the pregnancy. The pregnancy was behind and to the right, and it was ectopic. So because ectopics are so risky to the person carrying them, they immediately brought me back for more blood work. They did something called a Methotrexate panel. They wanted to look at my liver and my kidneys to make sure that they were safe to take the medication called Methotrexate. Now, I'm familiar with Methotrexate. It's something they actually use for my disease, to treat my disease. I have never taken it for my illness. It's something that I know other people have. I've also given it as a nurse, so I know about the medication. It's not something I would personally take for my Crohn's. It's rough. It's rough on your body. It's got a lot of side effects, and that's exactly what I found with it. I was safe to take the Methotrexate. They brought me in the next morning, and they did the first round of injections. So they did one in each upper butt area, like almost, I don't know, my lower back sort of area, into the muscle. And they had to do 2 because of the volume of the medication. It was a little bit too much to put into one area, so they do have to do it in 2 if you reach that volume. Because it's an intramuscular medication, the needle is a bit longer. Thankfully, it's on your backside, so you can't see it. My husband was with me for the first round, and he was like, that was a big needle. And I said, yeah, I know, that's so it can reach your muscle. The subcutaneous needles are a lot shorter because your fat's on top. But it wasn't unbearable. Yes, it's unpleasant. It's a big needle, but the pain is quick. Actually, when they were injecting the actual medication, it didn't feel awful to me. It was a little bit sore afterwards, but only for a few hours, and then I was okay. It wasn't for a couple days that I felt the side effects though, and I did feel pretty nauseated. I felt like I had gotten hit by a truck. It felt very just like, ugh, I felt awful. Headachy, tired, nauseated. So I really didn't like it. Because they had confirmed that the ectopic was not in my uterus, they actually saw it, and they had it confirmed by their team of doctors. Everybody reviewed it. They said, we're actually going to schedule you for the second dose of methotrexate. They don't always do that. Sometimes they just give you one dose and see how you do. Because they knew where it was, they confirmed it, they said, okay, we're going to give you the second dose. So I went in, I think Thursday was my first dose, Sunday was my next dose. And what is that, 3 or 4 days later? I went in for that one, same deal, one in each upper butt area, and same thing, it was a little bit sore, but got through it okay. Felt sick a few days later again. With ectopics, I think the really difficult thing was having to be monitored so closely, having to go in every other day to get blood work done and see what was going on, and getting ultrasounds, which were just unpleasant. That was the hardest part about this. I was constantly reminded of what was happening. And obviously this was a very wanted pregnancy. I wouldn't have gone through fertility treatment if I didn't want it. It was rough. I spent a lot of time crying. It was really rough. They kept monitoring my HCG levels and they were not lowering. They would hope that by the second dose, after the second dose, they would start to see me taper off and go downwards. That is not what happened. So they were very concerned. I kept rising. And so, you know, I told you my HCG level started at a 20. I got up to 11,000. Yeah, it got pretty high, which is really, I think, the hardest part, realizing that if this had just gone in the right place, it seemed like it really wanted to stay. Give yourself grace and time. These are ectopic pregnancies. Man, I don't recommend. They are really hard. So they kept monitoring. They were really worried. And eventually it got to the point where on an ultrasound, they saw a heartbeat. I didn't know that that was possible. And apparently when it gets to the heartbeat point, usually surgery is what is necessary for it. So they wanted to get me connected to an OBGYN. I didn't have one yet. I had a gynecologist, but I didn't have an OBGYN because I've never gotten that far. So they were connecting me with one. They called a clinic, and they actually were worried enough with my levels and everything going on that they wanted me to go to the ER. So it was a Wednesday night. My husband was at work, and he was really worried. He thought, you know, do I have to race home to get you, to bring you to the ER so you can get this surgery done? And I told him, I don't think you need to race. Like, I don't feel anything. I didn't feel anything other than feeling pregnant. My chest hurt, I felt gaggy, and I was exhausted. Like, that's what I was feeling. But I didn't feel any of the symptoms that I was told to look out for, and that was bleeding, excessive bleeding. I had some spotting throughout this, but nothing that didn't resolve within a couple hours. Wasn't having any bleeding that was severe, no one-sided pain, no shoulder pain, all the things they told me to look out for, I just wasn't having. So we went to the ER, and it wound up basically being a waste of time because they wanted to monitor my HCG level, and it actually started to drop the evening that I was in the ER and, admitted to a room. I dropped about 1,000 in my HCG within that hospital. They also did not have as sensitive of an ultrasound machine, so they didn't see a heartbeat. So there was a little bit of inconsistency there. That was a rough night, and I was exhausted, and I really wish, looking back, knowing what I do now about, the levels and knowing that there was a heartbeat and just how it worked out, I wish that I would have pushed for surgery when I wasn't, when it wasn't an emergency. I wish we had gotten in there and just taken care of it, and maybe recovery would have been a little bit easier. I don't know. But I was sent home, and I was excited and happy because I was just miserable in that hospital. They made me nothing to eat or drink by mouth. They put me on fluids, but they gave me such a low amount of fluids overnight, and I have an ileostomy. My fluid requirement is a little bit higher. So I was not feeling good by the next morning. Went home, and we continued life as normal, and I went back to going to the fertility clinic, getting my levels checked, and they were now starting to drop. They were starting to drop, and that seemed like things were going in the right direction. Got through the weekend, went in on a Monday, did a transvaginal ultrasound. They actually measured my uterine lining this time, and it was still really thick, and they still saw the embryo, you know, on my right side. So I went home, and actually that afternoon, my period started. Now, this is where it gets a little weird because I was fairly certain it was my period. I had period-like cramps. I didn't have one-sided pain. It was maybe a bit more blood than I expected for a period, but I was also technically supposed to be miscarrying at some point. So I thought, well, you're probably gonna have a little bit more blood. That was a little difficult. It made it really hard to figure out, is this a period or is this a rupture, or maybe is it both? So I continued on. I wasn't having any pain. Wednesday rolls around. I'm back in the fertility clinic with another transvaginal ultrasound. They measure my uterine lining again because I said, I think I got my period, and they were seeing my period because they were up there with an ultrasound wand. And my uterine lining was a lot thinner. They said, yep, it looks like you have started to shed it quite a bit. So that made sense. I was indeed on my period. It was confirmed. I was still feeling okay. I had a lot of blood that came out on the table, and that was a little, you know, I think they were a little concerned and I was a little concerned, but, you know, they just confirmed it was my period. So, okay, went home, went about my day, was doing my normal things. Like, I actually took the trash cans down from the road because it was storming that day. I was doing my regular day things, and then I was watching TV for a little bit, and I started to feel gas pain. Not one-sided pain, just like a bloated gas pain. And I don't really get that anymore because I don't have a colon. I don't know. I have an ileostomy. Things go through me pretty quick. And so I decided, let me go sit on the toilet and just, you know, let this phantom feeling pass. And I'm glad I brought my phone with me to the bathroom. The bathroom is right in there, and my battery is about to die, so give me 2 seconds. I gotta change it. Sorry about that. Okay, so yes, that hallway right there, that door leads to our downstairs bathroom. And that's where I went and brought my phone with me, thank goodness. I was sitting on the toilet waiting for the feeling to pass, and it only got more strong. Looking back, I did not know how fast a rupture could happen. But it was fast. I went from being able to walk around the house totally fine, doing, you know, chores and stuff, to not being able to walk. And so when I started to feel the pain increase, sitting there in the bathroom, I texted my husband and I said, hey, just giving you the heads up, I don't feel good. I'm having some abdominal pain. I wanted to let him know, you know, keep your eyes on the phone. And within 5 minutes, I started to feel like I was gonna pass out. I started wobbling on that toilet, and I thought, man, if this is where it ends for me, I just really don't want to be found on a toilet. So I called him, and I was crying, and I said, Zach, I can barely breathe. I was like, I think I'm rupturing. It feels ridiculous to say that, but that's how I was. I was so upset, and I was also so worried that, you know, this feels like really, really severe gas pain, like to the point where I can't walk. Am I exaggerating? Like, do I not need to go to the ER? Like, I'm gonna get there and they're gonna tell me it's gas and I'm gonna look really stupid. This is your lesson right now. Just listen to your body, because you're right. You're right about what you're feeling. My husband raced home. He left work. I feel really bad about it, but thank goodness he did. Raced home and brought me to the ER. And they recognized me from the week before, and I was obviously in pain this time. And I think they could tell that. They could compare it to the last time when I was laughing and joking with them, and this time I was crying, like hunched over. I had my knees up to my chest because that felt more comfortable. Like the whole ride to the ER, I was knelt forward because that's what felt the most comfortable to me. Which I recognize that because in my Crohn's history, I had a bowel perforation. I had peritonitis, which one of the signs of that is when you want to bring your knees to your chest. It's like fetal positioning. It makes you the most comfortable. And so that's what kind of clued me off that maybe something was leaking where it shouldn't be, maybe some blood. So I mentioned that to them. they wound up doing a pelvic pain exam, which is when the doctor goes up there to see if you feel pain. And I lurched in the bed. It was very weird because I had a transvaginal ultrasound that morning in which I was fine. And then when this doctor went up there with her hand to see if I was in pain, oh my gosh, it was very painful. I yelped, I lurched back into bed, and a lot of blood came gushing out of me. So they gave me pain medication in the ER, and then they sent me for the transvaginal ultrasound again. And the ER tech that was there doing it was actually the one that did my ultrasound the previous week in the ER, and she said, "Oh, you're back." And I told her, "Yeah, this time there's pain. This time we're not doing good." She did the ultrasound, and immediately, she found the embryo, of course, but immediately she said, "This does not look like what it looked like last week. You are filled with blood." She said, they're gonna do something for you. You're getting something done tonight. And I said, great. So they brought me back to, the ER waiting room, and I guess the doctors looked at my ultrasound and said she can't wait, and they had me in the OR within the hour. It was so fast that it didn't give me time to contemplate what was happening, to fully understand. It just had to be done so quick because I was bleeding internally, and it was very traumatic. It is. It was. And, I wish that I could go back to that first ER trip and really push to have surgery, so I could avoid everything that transpired after, because it really was traumatic. I'm okay now. I'm doing all right. Surgery went fantastic, but it was a lot. It was a lot to take. And so suddenly, I was fine that morning. I was absolutely fine that morning, and then I wasn't. It was so sudden. So this is my message. Please listen to your body. Listen to what you are experiencing. Do not brush it off like I did. There was just so many things that fell into place in the perfect way to make this, happen the way that it did. Of course I would start my period at the same time I started to rupture, but I really wish I had pushed the previous week and just, I know I wasn't feeling any symptoms, but my fertility clinic really tried to help me. They were really worried about me, and I don't know what I could have done. I don't know if I could have convinced surgeons to operate, but I could have avoided this. There's the potential that I could have avoided this. So the thing about this type of surgery is that apparently oftentimes it is done outpatient, which kind of shocked me. And I thought, well, maybe with my surgical history that might not be the case, or maybe because, I lost a decent amount of blood. I lost about they said, I think 300 or 350 milliliters internally. That's not including what I had bled out the old-fashioned way. They wound up keeping me overnight because the surgery did happen at night anyway, but I was discharged the next day. For me, because I've had a number of surgeries before and I've experienced, different post-op things, I felt like I was progressing much faster than I had with previous surgeries, which maybe that's why this is done outpatient, but I felt like I was further out from surgery than I actually was. I felt pretty good. Now, I still had probably some of the anesthesia and pain meds in me from surgery, so pain hit me really hard when I got home. But in terms of being able to move and getting the Foley catheter removed, all of this happened a lot faster. I was able to eat a lot faster than I normally was after many of my other surgeries. They actually had me eating right after surgery, like the night of, which really shocked me. But I felt like I was further out than other surgeries had left me. So I was home by the next afternoon. I was in quite a bit of pain. I was really worried about pain management, and I learned that they can be a little skimpy on the pain meds for this type of procedure, and I wish it wasn't that way. And I'm shocked because I've talked to a number of other people who have either gone through similar surgeries to this, maybe ectopic or some other, you know, whatever surgeries with reproductive health, or they've gone through C-sections, and I'm shocked at how little is given in terms of pain management for this. It's painful. In fact, this incision was one of my most painful. It was the most difficult to move around with. I don't know if it's because it was the longest incision I've ever had, or just how low it was and how every step that I took, anytime I moved, it impacted it. Like, I felt it. But the really nice thing is, you know, maybe it has to do with being healthy to start with. You know, my Crohn's is under control, so in terms of that, I'm doing really well health-wise. I feel like I have recovered the fastest from this, and also maybe that's just the type of surgery you recover faster. I don't know. Never been through it before. This is my first time, but I do feel like I recovered quite quickly from it. Obviously, I was very careful afterwards. I used silicone scar patches to cover the incision, and, you know, had weight lifting restrictions. Not that I'm lifting a whole lot of weight, but I was, you know, I was trying to be careful in what I picked up and the activity that I did, but I feel as though I am essentially back to normal, and it's about 6 weeks after now, so I feel like I'm back to normal. I don't know, which is it's sort of weird to feel that way. I'm in a very bizarre point at which I am ready to move forward fertility-wise. And technically I was told that my body is ready to move forward fertility-wise, but also just knowing what I went through, I'm like, I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in, and I think for everybody it's going to look different how you want to move forward with it. And I think whatever you choose, as long as it's safe between, you know, you talking to your doctor, I think whatever you choose is great. You have to do what you think is right for your body. And if you decide that you want to jump right back into it, obviously, as long as you're talking with your doctor and they give you the go-ahead, that's great. If you decide that you need a long break, then that's okay. And if you decide that maybe you want to pause, that is totally fine too. Just know this is very emotional. If you thought that maybe you wouldn't be emotional in this situation and you are shocked at how emotional you are, same. I didn't know I could be so upset over something I knew about for only a couple of weeks. I have been through so many surgeries. I have been through a lot in my 31 years. This changes you. That sounds corny, but it does. It alters something in there. Something's different, and you won't be the same after, and maybe that is a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that it helps you realize maybe how much you wanted it. Maybe in the future your dream of being a mother will be met, and it'll mean that much more to you. I don't know. I just know that it absolutely changed something in my brain. I've gone through a number of surgeries and just, I've been okay. I know how it goes. I know how to recover. It's definitely the mental piece it's been the roughest, and there have been so many points at which I have felt like I am just going to burst into tears. We just went to see my brother and sister-in-law, and I had to go to the restroom and just take a breather. I think Zach saw it on my face because he was like, "You good? You're right there." There's so many moments where it hits me and I'm like, oh my God, how did this happen? So just know you're not alone in it. It happens to far more people than you would ever expect. And if you feel comfortable sharing your experience with others, you will be surprised how many people tell you, I had an ectopic too. I lost a tube too. Here are my 17 kids I had after. There are a number of people in my family and in my life who have gone through very similar things, if not identical, and I had no idea. And they have kids. I'm like, what? So don't let it discourage you in that either. I will say that I am not upset at all in losing this fallopian tube. That is the least of my concerns. I'm glad it's gone. It probably had issues. There was probably something going on with it because of my other surgeries. You know, scar tissue is not a new problem for me, and maybe something was going on with it. But either way, since this ectopic happened, something was up with it. Something clearly was up with it. I'm glad it's gone. I wish we had just taken it out from the beginning, and I don't really have concerns with fertility moving forward. You know, I already had issues getting pregnant, so I'm not that worried about that. It's more that I just pray I never go through this again, because it is really mentally hard. And I know people who have gone through it multiple times, and I don't know how they do it. But just know you are definitely not alone. There are definitely way more people in your life than you realize that have experienced something similar to this. And you will get through it. You will overcome, as we must, and you'll succeed in however the future looks for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this very long video. Thank you to FlexiSpot for sponsoring it, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are looking for a way to help support my channel, consider liking this video or even subscribing. You can also check out my store at LetsTalkIBD.shop. I have stickers and hoodies like these guys over here, just related to chronic illness and inflammatory bowel disease, something fun. And I also have a coupon code for my YouTube watchers. You could also become a member of my channel, like the wonderful people scrolling on screen here. They've become a member and they have access to videos a little bit earlier. It's a great way to support my channel, and really, just watching my videos means the world. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.